Okay, everybody, let us begin day 3 of the Level 5 Functional Skills English Teaching Program. So this is the 3rd day out of 5 days. And so warm welcome to everybody. A warm welcome to Ross. Thank you, Ross, for joining us. And what I thought we'd do is just have a quick catch up with everybody with regards to thoughts and ideas, planning for the presentations. Normally, we tend to do this towards the end of day 3, when we start to, on a 5-day program, which maybe last over 5 weeks or over 5 months. But obviously, we've only really got until next week to complete the course. This is obviously a fast-track intensive course, so we do need to start thinking about the a presentation now, really. So this is one of the components of the program. So as well as the attendance on the program, there's the completion of the reflective diary, and then also the short presentation. So each delegate will be required to do a short presentation of 5 to 7 minutes. And I just said last time, ideally within groups of say 3 or 4 or working in pairs. I've already had some communication from some of the participants as to, their likely groupings. That's absolutely fine. We just need to make sure that obviously you are comfortable with the use of Zoom as well in terms of the screen sharing screens, etc. And I have in one of the emails, I have sent a very quick beginner's guide to how you can use Zoom for some of you who may not be familiar with this platform. But really, I mean, I'm not really an expert myself, but I've just kind of picked things up as I go along and learn from mistakes as you do. So it's a really good opportunity to start getting used to using the platform yourselves, and also to start thinking about your presentations. So obviously, we are still delivering the content, but we would like you to try to pick maybe one or few of the ideas from the program, something which is new to you, something which you haven't yet explored. If you have a kind of an inquiry, kind of a mindset with this, I mean, you can present something which you're very familiar with, you've done already, which works, as long as it's kind of loosely connected with the program. But as you are kind of, we are teaching in very unprecedented times. So if there is something that you'd like to think about, explore, that will help you with your role, help you with the work that you're trying to do with your students, then try to use this opportunity to embark on that inquiry. So some of you might be quite interested in maybe looking at ways of trying to teach functional skills in a more digital format, or maybe, using more video-based teaching, if that's the way things are going to have to go, depending on how you're going to be working with the college come, say, August, September, when it's the start of the new academic year. Maybe some of you have never really thought about putting, maybe front loading more speaking and listening into your sessions, or maybe you want to increase the amount of SPAG work you do with students, because with the new SPACs, the actual SPAG element in the writing composition, level 1, level 2, is now 42% of the overall task, compared to 40% with the legacy. So it's really up to yourselves as to how you want to do this, and it's your time, it's your presentation. Some of you want to do it on an individual basis. That is fine. Everybody will be afforded that post presentation time for everybody to offer some feedback. And in terms of the feedback that we're kind of expecting, obviously this is not a lesson observation per se. We're not kind of judging people's teaching styles or use of voice, really. It really is about the content and whether the content presented, whether it could be adapted, whether it would work for you, whether you could make any further suggestions. So the feedback is within the realms of sharing good practice and also developing practice. Okay, so that's how we are viewing this. It's very informal, and it is meant to be supportive and developmental. All right. But also, if people have got any specific queries, specific concerns about this element of the program, then please do. I mean, at the end, when I finish my kind of training day at 2 o'clock, if some of you wanted to wait behind in the meeting room, if you wanted to ask me any specific questions, or if you wanted to raise any queries, questions via email, please please feel free to do so. Okay. So we're looking at next Thursday afternoon, and if colleagues can be available to 3 p.m. please next Thursday, because he's just not quite sure how the timings are going to go with this. So if we could say we finish, well, we can be available until 3. We may finish at 2 o'clock or maybe earlier. We don't really know. But really, if we could be available for up to about 3 o'clock next Thursday, and we'll start at 12:30. But in the morning of when is it? On the morning of Tuesday, we're going to then start thinking about, you know, give me some idea of what your groupings are. So really, from now until Tuesday morning, I need to have, you know, if you can work on this element in terms of, are you going to be delivering individually? Are you going to be working in groups? If so, what are your groupings? And can we agree on a running order? If we can get that sorted on Tuesday morning, that would be amazing. And then I will cover more content. And then really by Thursday morning, which is the final day, then I'll be asking for some indicative idea of your topics, as really by then you would have more or less have got your presentations more or less done. So you are going to be expected, guys, to do that little bit of work in between the sessions to get ready. But to be honest with you, what people have done is they've just produced maybe 1 or 2 slides or 1 handout or 1 piece of resource and talked around it. You don't have to do a whole heap of work. Again,
Sunil, can I just stop you? I'm sorry.
You already do already, but you're looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes as a result of doing this course. Okay. So,
Sunil, sorry.
Any initial? We've got some chat messages I want to have a look at now.
Sunil, can you hear me?
Fantastic. Okay, nice internal chat. Very good. So, does anybody have any initial thoughts or questions around the presentation? Anything at all?
Can anybody hear me?
I can.
Hey, Joe.
Okay.
Right.
Siobhan,
right,
and can you just let him know that Siobhan and Matt are
okay
in
with
the
that?
lobby?
That's okay. Right. So let's begin the session proper. So this is now going to be session.
Sunil.
Session 5. Session 5 is about looking at phonics, which is the teaching of the letter sound combination. We're going to be teaching it at entry level. Oh, may wait a second. Oh, Joe's trying to speak. Oh, right. We've got more people coming in. Oh, right. Let me have a look. Okay, right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for the messages, guys. Is everybody in? Okay, I think, is everybody here now? Okay, I'll keep the participant information pinned up somewhere on my screen. Can I minimize it? Okay, that's fine. All right, guys. So please just, if you can start thinking about your groupings now for your presentations. And on Tuesday morning, we're going to then have a running order. Please do get in touch with me via email if you have any specific queries about the delivery of your presentation or anything about it using Zoom. Please get in touch. After 2 o'clock today, I can be available to, if anybody wants to just wait in the meeting room and they want to have a chat with me on a one-to-one after the session, once we finish at 2 o'clock, that's absolutely fine. That worked really well at the end of the session on Wednesday, where colleagues did wait at the end to have a chat, and that's fine, like we would normally in a face-to-face session. Okay, right. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me and see me? Because I delivered a few webinars yesterday for another contractor, and people were experiencing screens going a bit fuzzy, and I would just make the point, guys, to everybody, that can you please make sure that you check your bandwidth on your broadband if you're operating via broadband, and also just take extra care with any IT facilities, particularly if you're finding yourself using them a lot, particularly during this very precarious time that we're in. So just in terms of just making sure that all of your equipment is fine, sound, audio, doing the checks. I find, I'm with PlusNet, and now and then, if I have lags and things like that, then I contact them and they do some kind of a frequency check on my settings on the channels. And that sometimes gets it resolved. So if you do need to get in touch with the provider of your broadband, please do, as you are working in a more digital way. All right. One thing I was joking with a few colleagues yesterday was the fact that I feel like rewriting Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or the theory of motivation, because I think beneath the physiological needs, which is to eat, to be clothed, to have shelter, I think we need to have broadband or Wi-Fi or digital technology underneath that, because without that, particularly during the pandemic lockdown, I don't know how we'd be able to survive. Maybe we would, but however, it's worth thinking about. Sorry, that is my Friday joke. I know I'm a pathetic comedian. Okay, guys, everybody can hear me, see me now? Everybody in the room? Right, we got 17. Okay, we got 17 participants. That's interesting. Okay. Right, all right, guys, let's move on then. Now, could you tell me, please, first of all, in the chat box, how do you go about, okay, tell me about you and your relationship with phonics. Right, let's just get it all out there now. Let's just get it all out there. Your relationship with phonics. So in terms of teaching sound letter combinations, okay? Graphemes, phonemes, international phonemic alphabet, decoding, encoding. Tell me what's on your mind. Tell me where you guys are at with this. Have any of you done any phonics-based training that has been put on by ETF? For example, developing readers and writers. There's an entry 1 course and an entry 2, entry 3. I've delivered on both recently. Okay. What about your phonics background? When you were at school, when you were like primary school, were you taught phonics? Were you taught the relationship? Were you taught that IGH, the grapheme, is actually I rather than IG? Yes or no? Where are we at? Yeah, from children. That's a very good point, Zabia. Yeah, because I'll mention how the children know about phonics in a short while. Right, okay. So most of you saying no. Okay, all right. Yeah, Shirley, that's fine. Yeah, you probably learned it unconsciously. Fantastic. That's great. Okay, thanks for the feedback, guys. Now, I want to also say something that for me, phonics is very familiar to me from my own English language teaching background, because I'm not sure whether I mentioned this, but I originally trained in terms of the beginnings of my English language teaching career, I initially trained as an EFL, ESOL teacher. So that was my first ever job in the post-16 sector in the West Midlands. So I was, first I was sessional ESOL teacher, then I became a full-time EFL/ESOL teacher, working full-time. After 12 months, I found myself into management and never left management since then. But hey ho, that is a whole another story. But ESOL teaching and EFL teaching was really predominant for me for the first 10 years of my career before I went into adult literacy, SLDD, then also went into key skills, then it was called key skills, then functional skills, and GCSE. So I've gone all around the houses with teaching English. Okay. But originally, I started off with EFL. And when I did my Delta course, a level 7 Delta course, 21 years ago, this is a diploma for English language teaching for adults, that was very much orientated around teaching English as a language, as a subject. Not just how to use it, but the actual nuts and bolts, the actual morphology, the etymology of it, in terms of the history of the language, morphology, looking at more sort of nuts and bolts parts of speech, looking at lexicology, looking at how words are made, and also phonology as well, pronunciation, looking at the sound relationship. So I'm quite familiar with this, but in nationally speaking, within the United Kingdom, you tend to find that in the independent school sector, they probably have had a more pronounced methodology around phonics teaching for many, many, many years. So they've kind of, you know, some of their English teaching paradigms are in terms of the beginner level for primary school, in terms of the prep schools, they have used lots of phonics-based teaching. in the state sector, particularly in primary schools, it's kind of hit and miss because it depended on the training backgrounds of the primary school teachers, if they were taught phonics themselves or if they actually promoted it within their classes, okay? Particularly before 2006. And the reason why 2006 is very important for us to understand in 2016, well, in 2020, is the fact that in 2006, the government of the day instructed a white paper to be written to look at raising literacy rates in the United Kingdom, and then to give more consideration for the teaching of phonics in primary schools, okay? That's why from 2006 onwards, in every single school in the country, phonics was going to be a compulsory part of the English language teaching curriculum. So phonics was going. So basically, we're working with post-16 students, aren't we? Okay. So even if they're 14, you're working with 14-year-olds. They probably would not, depending on their teacher, obviously. They would not have had, you know, any of our post-16 students may not have had any formal training in phonics, okay? And then the other consideration is if we also explore, because I've just explored with you, I've just gone with you my own training background in English language teaching. So you also have to also explore your own English language training background in terms of how you were trained as English teachers and whether the training actually incorporated anything to do with phonics, okay? And it's perfectly fine that, you know, if I mean, within the post-16, there has been a lot more emphasis now on phonics. And it's perfectly fine at this moment in time if you're kind of saying, well, I haven't had the training, it's not been part of, my students are not familiar with it. Okay, no problem at all. There's no problem at all at this point in time if as a group, we're dealing with this as a bit of a tabula rasa, a bit of a blank slate, or maybe just some exposure. That's fine. Hopefully by the end of this session, you'll be more familiar with phonics, some of the kind of nuts and bolts of what's involved, and how to go about teaching it with your students, and how you go about incorporating it into your teaching methodologies and paradigms, okay? So we're not asking practitioners to completely transform the way they teach entry-level functional skills. It's not about that. We just want colleagues to view phonics work as another tool in your toolbox, and that's it, okay? If some of you want to take a transformative approach to teaching entry-level, that's your individual choice, that's your individual prerogative, but it's not a requirement. Let me tell you how we've got involved in post-16 with phonics and how now it's now become embedded within the actual assessment of functional skills. In 2017, you probably are aware, I'm not sure whether I asked this question before, there was a national consultation that went out to lots and lots of post-16 organizations to ask the question, well, can you tell us about the delivery of the legacy 2010 functional skills, English and math. It was both for English and maths, okay? So basically, within the English one, when all the feedback was collated in 2018, and at this point, I'm going to do a screen share. 2000. Oh, I hope I've got the information handy. Where is it? Where is that information? Let me just share the screen if I've got it. Yeah, got it. Can you? Right. Hopefully people can see that. Yeah. Can you see this? The DFE document, guys. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Fantastic. So here it is. So this was the result of the consultation, the new subject content, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, guys, obviously it goes through all of the criteria, and when we did the quiz on Monday, we went through some of the specific changes and differences to the actual legacy qualification. All right. Now, at the back, this is where the phonics comes into its own, all right? So let me start from here. Expectation. So starting from page 20, expectations for word reading entry levels 1 to 3, okay? So on the right-hand side, you'll see that you've got the sounds written as written using the symbols of the International Phonemic Alphabet, or the IPA. And then you've also got example on the left-hand side in terms of the letters and letter combinations that you've got, whether we're using basic code plus, or one-to-many, okay? So, for example, here you've got PUT for pan, but also double P, which is basic code plus. So basic code is PA, P is always a PA, and double P, which is written as 2 letters, that's also sounds like a PA. So that would be a basic code plus. So essentially, basic code really means that normally one letter or 2 of the same letters, they equal 1 sound, okay? Again, you've also got combinations like CH. Right, now, CH, in this case, even though it's written as a cha, right? You got cha for chip, you've got cha for fetch, all right? And you can see how it's written in the International Phonemic Alphabet. It looks like a T, /T with an F with the middle thing missing. So that actually, if you want to know what cha sounds like in the International Phonemic Alphabet, then it looks like that, okay? You'll find that with the IPA, that the sounds are written with 2 forward slashes, and then you've got some symbol, or you've got, some lettering in between, okay? Now, CH, now, it is actually referred to as one-to-many, all right? Now, the reason why CH is one-to-many, because you could have, CH could be a K for chaos, it could be a ch for cheese or church, can also be a sh for machine. This is how students make spelling errors. Now, this could be entry level, this could be level 1 or level 2. If they think that CH is always a ch, then they're going to be thinking, well, there is no way that machine has CH in there. I'm going to write SH, or I'm going to write chaos with a K. Okay, not realizing that chaos can be written with a CH, which has 1 sound. All right, so here, what students get really confused with is that a lot of the reasons why at entry level, can I ask the question? Have your students? Let me ask a few questions first. How many of you teach entry level in a discrete way? So you have got groups that are all entry 3, ESOL, mainstream, adults, or have you got any entry level, full-time study program, but they're doing entry level quals? Is that a yes? Is that a yay? Okay, Jackie, I'll come back to you on your query. Okay. All right, guys. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Now, what about your level 1, level 2, your officially registered level 1, level 2 functional skills English students? How many of those have got spiky profiles in English which point downwards to entry levels? Entry 3, entry 2, reading and writing. How many of your level 1s are entry 3, readers or writers, or lower? How many of your level 2s? Most. Oh my goodness me. Right, okay. How many of your level 2s are entry 3 readers and writers? Level 2s. Zabia, your level 2s, many of them are entry level 2 spikies. Yeah, all right, okay. That's interesting. It's not uncommon, your feedback. And one of the things I want to get across is that people tend to think, oh, phonics is only for the entry student, the entry ones who registered. No, it's not. We have got to, for me, I'm just giving you my personal opinion because I'm walking the talk. I teach post-16 students through, work-based learning organization. And I tell you, with level 2s, I teach them phonics. I get down to business with phonics because that's what they needed. That's what's been missed out. It's nobody's fault. It's just, it is what it is. So where the students feel that their understanding is that there are only 26 sounds because there are 26 letters. That's the first misconception. It's not their fault they have that, okay? But officially, we have 44 sounds. And the 44 sounds are represented as the international phonemic alphabet. Okay, so can everybody, I'm just thinking whether I can go on to can everybody still see my screen? Because I think it might be worth just giving you an example of what the international phonemic alphabet looks like. Or has anybody seen, can you all see my screen? Yeah, okay, thank you. Right, okay, fantastic, brilliant. So here is an example of the IPA, okay? So you can see they haven't got the forward slashes on there, but they've still got the actual, the lettering and the little colons and whatnot. So this is how you can actually identify the 44 sounds, okay? E, U, ia, a, etc., etc., etc. Now, there are apps available. You can go on Play Store, Google Apps, I believe, or sorry, Google Stores. You can download the International Phonemic Alphabet for free. It'll give you something that looks like this, and you can click on it, or your students could click on it, and it gives you the sound. Okay, so that's if you want to become familiar with the International Phonemic Alphabet yourself, because all of this is basically what is being shown in the DFEE document. Okay, so here you have the expectations for what students are expected to read at entry 1 to entry 3. Okay, so so let me just go through this. So here, if you have a look here, again, if you look at ja, so the one that here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this one here, like jet, gem, large, and bridge. So they all sound like ja, but then how many of your students would write bridge with a J? How many of your students would write bridge with a J? How many would them make? Zoom in. How do I zoom in? I'm not sure how I can do that. Okay, what I can do, guys, just give me a second. Let me stop the share, and I know how to do the zoom in for the document. Okay, guys, is that better? Is that better? Is that better in terms of zooming? Yes. Okay, that's brilliant, guys. Okay, right. Yeah, I got it on a PDF. So I'm still finding my way through screen share, as you can see. Right, okay, I was going through. Right, how many of your students, guys, would write bridge with a J? Or they'd write bridge without the D? Or they'd write bridge with just a G, with just a G, because they think, gel, gem. Yeah, lots of them, yeah, okay. So this is where, as a teacher, in terms of spelling work, this presents opportunities to do lots of spelling work, okay? Now, a very simple exercise that I would normally do is I would just try to find as many, so where you have these differences, and this is what the DFE have done, they're highlighting that you've got a J-ger, you've got a G-ger, you've got a G-E-ger, and you've got a D-G-E-ger. But do the students know that? And so we have to transfer that to teaching. And what I'd be doing is I'd be giving them lots of words with they all have the jet sound. What they have to do is they have to separate them out. All these, you put in the J column, this one in the G, this one in the GE, and this one in the DG, okay? Now, this one, that could be quite a simple activity, but what you could also do is dictation, or you could do like a verbal spelling test. Do some of you do any dictation or verbal spelling test? I say and you write. Now, it might be a bit scholastic, but how many of you do that? Yeah, brilliant. There's no harm doing it because I think it's brilliant. So what you could do, you could have your 20 words or whatever words you've got. Each word has the j sound, all right? But they're mixture. You've deliberately mixed them up, okay? And there are some DGE ones in there, whatnot. You've given them a table. You've given them a table for them to write in. So they're not writing on a blank piece of paper. One table, you've put down the title J, the letter J. The next column is a G. Next one is a GE. The next one is a DGE. So as you say the word bridge, they decide which column to write it in. Is it bridge with a J? Is it bridge with a GE? Is it with a DGE? Okay? So allow the students to use their subconscious mind to listen to the word and your pronunciation of it, and then allow their subconscious mind to decide which of the 4 jut sounds, the 4 graphemes, okay, which is individual unit, which individual grapheme actually it should belong to. So that is another way of doing it, okay? So get them to do dictation like that. The other thing you could also do as well is you could also give students all these words with jut sounds, but you'd say to them, look, some of these words, the jut sound is not one letter. Sometimes they think one letter per sound. A lot of our entry-level students, they don't understand that we have the one-to-many concept, but they are programmed in basic code because 26 equals 26. Or maybe 30 equals 26, okay? But not 44. We've got to start getting them to think of 44 equals 26. Does that make sense, guys? When I'm saying to you that we've got to try and get our students away from 26 equals 26 to 44 equals 26 when we're trying to teach them phonics and entry-level work, regardless of their levels. Does that make sense? Yay, nay? Yeah, okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Brilliant, thank you, guys. And that is this is where, and when we are going to be looking at a student's piece of work at entry level, because we need to have a look very carefully at the work that's been done by our students. And, you know, I would encourage you to be looking at your students' work with a fresh pair of spectacles once you become more familiar with phonics. All right. So now basically, so here again, one other technique I want you to also, which comes from school, but I think it's really good. In school, what they get the actual children to do is to use the underline and dot technique. All right. Now you could give your students a list of, say for example, you've done the spelling test with the students, 20 words, all with a jut sound. Now you give them a copy of the correct spellings. So that is good modeling for them to self-correct. But what you now do is you say to them, right, I want you to underline the number of letters, and it could be 1, 2, or 3. Underline the letters which just make the jut sound. They just make the jut sound. So you'd be getting students for the word bridge to put an underline between D, G, and E and 1 dot underneath. Now, why would I get the learner to put 1 dot underneath an underline of 3 letters? Why would I do that? What does that mean, everybody? What does the 1 dot mean? 1 dot underneath 3 letters. Yes, thank you, Shirley. Fantastic. So you are trying to get them to funnel their understanding that it's not always the case that 1 letter is 1 sound. 3 letters could equal a sound. So in terms of my spelling, I cannot make the assumption that when I think I hear 1 sound, I'll write 1 letter or 2 letters. It could be 3, okay? And that's really, really important. Yes, thank you, guys. You've got it. All right. So, and now we have that understanding. Do we need to make sure that our learners have their understanding as well? So please don't shy away from doing this kind of basic phonics-based work with your level 1, level 2 students, because if that's going to help them to get their SPAG marks up, and if it's a spelling that's causing them an issue, then that could definitely be worth an investment. Can I do a very quick poll, please? A very quick verbal poll. Tell me, guys, when we're talking about SPAG with your learners, regardless of the levels that you're teaching, tell me which one is the biggest problem with your students. Is it spelling? Is it the formation of the words when they're writing? Is it the grammar, or is it the punctuation? Which one is the big problem area? Grammar for some, all of them, grammar. Joe saying mixture, all. Okay. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, all right, so it's grammar. Okay. Now, there is some interrelationship between the nature of grammar and the nature of spelling, because there is a certain order, and then the relationship is order, okay? There's a certain, or for grammar to work, there's got to be an order. And the order for the English language is for the English syntax, we always have subject followed by a verb and then an object. I am going to work. Very simple syntax. Subject, S plus V plus O. Subject plus verb plus object, okay? Now, in spelling, for them to be able to spell correctly, they've got to understand order, but the order of letters within a word. So this is how we can try to transcend between two of them and try to make sure that our learners understand ordering for them to be able to improve their grammar and to improve their spelling. Oh, thank you, Siobhan. Yeah, that's great. Okay, Josh is saying punctuation. Okay, fantastic. That's good. And so basically, if they can master the ordering grammar, then it might help them with ordering letters in spelling as well, okay? But here, when talking about phonics, we really are focusing on the formation of the words for writing, which is encoding, and also decoding, which is how they read them, okay? Now, I know when some of you are thinking this, well, okay, maybe basic code plus, one-to-many, that could be a way, because I'm not sure whether you've heard of David Crystal. David Crystal is a very famous British a linguist, writer, researcher, has done a lot of work with Cambridge and Oxford in terms of the dictionary content. Anybody heard of David Crystal? He's written an encyclopedia of the English language. So if some of you really want to go into the English language proper pure, David Crystal is your person, is your go-to person. David Crystal actually has made the comment in a podcast 5 years ago. He said that basic code plus and one-to-many is, phonics can be helpful. Phonics can be helpful. However, there are particular words, for example, which have silent letters. So he said not everything can be encoded. Not everything can be decoded. So there are probably lots of exceptions to the code because the phonics provides a code, okay? But there are also lots of exceptions to the code. And I'm thinking of things like silent letters, yeah? So we might think, well, there is a letter here like K for knee or for knock, but they don't have to write it. They just have to learn that. With exceptions, students just have to accept those particular, those kinds of exceptions as to why it is, and why is it that PH, why is it that PH is a FA? Why is it that we have two letters together? It's a FA. It's just the way it is, or there could be some historical reason behind it, but it may well be, but there may not be a reason, and that's okay too, as long as we just accept it. So phonics can give a code, and it can help to try to decode and encode, but it's not everything. We still have to teach those exceptions. And I have heard a lot of practitioners have said to me, I think sometimes the English language has more exceptions than rules, which why it is one of the most challenging languages to learn. I mean, some languages are highly phonetic. I mean, I know from myself, my mother tongue language, my second language, which is Punjabi, that's highly phonetic. Every single vowel and letter has one sound, simple. So, that's it. There is equality in terms of in terms of letters and sounds. So it was quite easy for me to learn how to read, Punjabi script. But this is where you have the problem, where you've got second language speakers coming into your mainstream functional skills sessions, and they're coming in with their first language backgrounds. If, for example, like in the Punjabi language or Hindi or in some of the Asian languages, the syntax is differently arranged, like SOV, subject, object, verb, where the verb is at the end, then yes, then they are going to be misplacing the verbs in their utterances and in their sentences when they speak and they write. Okay. If some languages do not really differentiate between present simple and present perfect and things of that nature, or for example, present perfect and simple past, any point in the past or the recent past, if they don't really draw a distinction, then they're going to slightly be off time, off key with their timing in their sentence writing or how they say things. Okay. When they meant recent past, but not any point in the past. All right. So it's things like that we have to draw, we have to bring to the students' attention. Oh, Irish is verb, subject, object. My goodness me. Okay. Okay, let's just have some of the questions. Oh, Matthew, thank you very much. You've got David Crystal's website. That's very helpful. Accents can also have an impact. Josh, you're asking me, may I ask whether Punjabi speaking youths have similar difficulties? Does a language actually help students to learn? I suppose that with the Punjabi language, with those students, they probably will have some, they probably will really take on board any phonics-based teaching, because that's how they've been taught in the past in their own language. So they will really be relishing any work done by a functional skills teacher to combine letters with sounds, because that's how they've been taught, and that's how I've been taught Punjabi as well. So yes, they actually would really appreciate that. But I think all your learners would. I think all your learners would really, anything to do with cracking a code, anything to do, if you can do your teaching around phonics, around puzzles, amazing, that would really work. Siobhan, you're saying Irish, the verb goes at the beginning. That's amazing. I didn't know that. First the verb and then the subject and then the object. That's interesting. So it's amazing how the syntax changes from language to language. And with some learners, the actual syntax may change. And dare I say, I don't know whether with some English dialects, because dialects are a form of the language, I don't know whether the syntax just goes out the window with dialect. I don't know. Any comments there? Shirley, any comments there about dialect going out the window? And whether dialect actually comes in, transfers itself into your classes, or anybody for that matter. I'm just thinking things like, I'm taking it, or, he's taking it, something like that. I don't know. So things of that nature. I mean, we talk about L1 interference, L1 meaning the first language. So there definitely could be L1 interference coming in, as we talked about. So any comments there? Sorry for the humor. I'm terrible. I think I'm getting the Friday feeling. So Shirley's saying many spelling errors as, how they speak. Yeah, how they speak is how they write it. This is where you got your 26 equals 26. Can be quite confusing for them to switch. Yeah, your students, sometimes how they speak. Fantastic stuff. Very, very good. Okay, guys. Can I just ask a question? Are you familiar with this part of the document? Are you familiar with it? Are you using it? Are you using it with your schemes of work? Are you using it with your lesson plans, teaching? Tell me where you are with this DFE document, please. Okay, Paula, thank you. That's great. You're not using it at the moment. Familiar but haven't used it. All right, fantastic. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. And really, what I would do is, for example, let me just tell you this now. Where am I at? Right, okay. I would say that if it's new to you, then that's okay. Just give yourself time to get familiar with this. And, we have had a number of teachers. I remember a presentation from a level 5 where you had somebody who predominantly taught level 2s, but registered level 2s, but they had lots of spiky profiles, and she felt that phonics was the breakthrough moment for her as an English teacher to try to improve their spelling. Okay, and so she then decided to then use some of this document to then refresh her teaching on reading and writing by using some of the information here. Okay, so if you're thinking maybe phonics is maybe something I could think about for my presentation, brilliant, just go for it. Like I said, this course is there to open up your minds and think about other ideas that you may find helpful. So if you're new to teaching phonics, okay, I would say just start off easy, go easy on yourself. Start by trying to teach phonics using entry-level 1 words. All right, so entry-level 1 words. So things like the smaller letters, okay. Sorry, the smaller words rather. Smaller words with maybe less confusing combinations. So for example, gut is gut, gut forget, gut forgive. GE is jut, okay? It's always jut. Change, well, in this case, change and large, okay? VE is va, but also you've got of, OF is of, va, okay? So you might get students writing of with an OV. That's because they're not linking to the fact that V can also be written one-to-many, va can be written with a fa, okay? And when you look at one-to-many, guys, can you write this down, please, in your books? One-to-many can be sound to text, okay? It can be text to sound, okay? It can be sound to text, one-to-many. It can be text to sound, one-to-many, okay? So, for example, sound to text, one-to-many. One sound to many representations of the text. So, for example, if I gave you the sound A, okay, so A can be written in different ways, okay? It can be written as an EI for sleigh, A. It can be written as AY, as in say, okay? And things of that nature. So that's an example there of sound to text, one-to-many, okay? Now, what about text to sound? Text to sound, one-to-many. One text, many sounds, okay? For example, EA. EA can be A for great, okay? It can be E for beach, okay? So you've got some variations there. All right, can you all follow that, guys? Yes? So you have one-to-many, speech to text, and text to speech. All right. So those are things also that we need to be addressing with our students. So here you have some examples of entry 1. All right. Now again, some students. Now again, this is entry 1 because you probably know that the phonics has been embedded into the assessment now. That with the entry levels, okay, the entry levels, entry 1, entry 2, entry 3, students have to do a spelling test. A spelling test is part of their writing component within their functional skills accreditation, okay? So students will be given words to write. So an entry 1 student will be expected to differentiate the different ways that C can be spelled. Now look at this, right? Cut. Cut is one-to-many, okay? One-to-many, sound to text. Cut as in can, cut act, cut look, cut CK, cut CH, okay? So rather than a student writing, missing out the H in school, missing out the K in back, okay? Or they're writing C rather than K for look, all right? These are things where you've got to try and consolidate students' understanding and matching activities, labeling things, filling in the missing gaps with the correct combinations. These are the things, and then showing them lots of examples, getting them to underline and do the dot. The underline dot method, even though it comes from primary school, I have no hesitation using any primary techniques with my post-16 as long as I'm teaching it in an adult context. Because you can still use the techniques but then it's about the, you know, the visuals and the imagery and the context that has to be post 16. All right, it's more in line with their programs that they're doing in college and the careers we're preparing them for, their level 3 vocational quals, all that kind of stuff. And also, guys, you may also want to start thinking of maybe embedding more of the, I mean, this is what I used to do when I used to work in college and used to look after your 16 to 18s, full-time study programs. They're doing, what, level 3 you know, hairdressing, they're doing mechanics or whatever they're doing, is I would strategically, as a strategic English language teacher in their functional skills class, be bringing in vocabulary from their vocational courses. I'll be getting lists of word lists from my vocational colleagues. Then I'll be doing phonics-based work with them. I'll be doing phonics-based work with my students, the kind of things that I've already explained to you, with vocabulary that is going to be part and parcel of them understanding instructions, you know, for mixing hair dyes or how to be able to fix the carburetor. I'll be making sure the vocabulary fits in for that. All right. And then I would then, being a very kind colleague, I would then be helping out my vocational colleagues on how they can teach phonics and embed phonics teaching in their vocational classes, because they struggle with learners who have spelling issues. All right. So some of this could be cross-transference as well. Did some of you say that you are already teaching an embedded context anyway? Oh, that's great, Paula. It's a really, really simple, powerful technique. You'll love using it. Fantastic. Josh, Shirley. Yeah, amazing. Great feedback, guys. Do start using some of these techniques. Okay, guys. Now, as you can see now, then it gets a little bit more difficult. So when you are preparing your students for the level 1, sorry, entry 1, entry 2, entry 3 test. And can I also mention as well that this really comes from your key stage 1, key stage 2, primary school, you know, with the kids being asked to do spelling tests, because for them to do spelling tests, this is where they demonstrate their knowledge of phonics and the exceptions to phonics as well. All right. Now look at this. Look at this word here. This comes on, well, this one here. This comes on the entry level 1. Look, A. Look at this. A. You got AY. Day, say, way, made. Right. Can I mention here? This one is what we call a split digraph. Okay. So it's a split vowel digraph. When you got a split digraph, but what that means is the A and the E have been split with a consonant. Okay. And what happens is with a split digraph is that if the E wasn't there, it would then be a singular short vowel. It'd be an A. Because you're putting an E there, the A then becomes the A actually becomes an A, the sound A. So that's your split digraph there. So again, do students understand that? If you split it, so for example, you know, mad becomes made, okay? And things of that nature. Right, so you got make as a split digraph, take a split digraph, so is came, same, late, and they. So they can also be written in an EY, okay? And you can see that you've still only got the one sound, and the one sound is written in one way in the International Phonemic Alphabet, okay? And that's an E with an I. Well, it looks like a little E with a capital I, but that is the sound, okay? And look at this one here, I, okay? Look at I. Look at the different ways that I is written. You got IGH. For a high, right, might, you got your singular letters like mind, fried, mind, child, fine. Look, I is written with a Y, okay? By, my, myself, reply, okay? You've also got split digraphs. You got IE, but the K has been split for like, time, life, while, and right. So if you're thinking, well, could I be teaching the sound I as a one-to-many in my classes? So my students stop writing by with an I, or stop writing myself with an I, or what they do is they write the word right, but they miss out the E, or they miss out the E in while, okay? So you might be thinking, as a teacher, should I now be approaching the phonics teaching by making sure I'm teaching the one-to-many, and I should be now teaching the 3 different ways that the sound I can be written? Can I categorize it? Can I compartmentalize it? Can I get my students to use Padlet to do phonics? Anybody use Padlet for teaching English? Anybody use Padlet for teaching? I mean, I've given you Padlet just to I've used the shelving system to hang resources, but Padlet is good. If you create your own account, guys, you'll have 3 free electronic sticky boards. Use the template, which probably puts a post in the middle, and then you can then put down 3 or 4 posts. You can get your students, you could say, right, I'm going to give you this sound, and what you could do is you could record the sound as your voice, upload it in the middle post, get the students to listen to it, and then you then say, right, there are 3 other posts here. I want you to write as many spellings as possible, which uses I with a split vowel, like right. 1 uses I with a Y. You have to write Y in there. 1, you have to just write the I, G-H, and the other one, you just write the I. Then you get students to quick think, thought shower, and then they should then give you 3, 4 posts with all the correct spellings, one-to-many. All right? That's one way of doing it. Has anybody heard of the app Trello? Trello, I'm writing it in there. Trello. Okay, now Trello is actually used for, it's really good, a planning document. If you're planning anything, a holiday, an assignment, a project, because what it does, you can have it on the app, on the phone, or you can have it on your tablet, on your PC, whatever. Trello allows you to create a main board, okay, like a board, like a rectangle. Then you can create mini boards underneath, okay? Now, I encourage my students to use Trello for phonics, all right? Because as they are undertaking their English language classes, I am making it clear that, look, these words have one-to-many combinations, and I'm going to teach you them now so you don't forget them. Can you make a note of it, either in your phonics diary, you know, your vocabulary book, or can you please make a note in your Trello, right? And Trello, what I do, say for example, if I'm teaching, let me just give you an example. Yeah, okay. Let's use the example of I, all right? I say, right, I want you to create 4 boards, right? 4 boards, and each one has an I sound, right? But then the title of each board is going to be, one is IGH, the second one is I, the second one is Y, write the letter Y, and the next one is write I split with an E, right? A split. And then every time I'm teaching you, I want you to make sure, and I would deliberately choose a piece of text which has loads of I sounds in there. So when you're teaching phonics, why don't you scan for the frequency of the sounds so you can bring about the variations in the writing, so you're teaching one-to-many. If that makes sense, okay? So I'll deliberately choose text, which has common. This is a really good way of introducing yourselves to phonics teaching. Find common sounds like I, like A. And what about S, okay? Then I would make sure that with the case of the student using Trello, that they'd be then eventually having 4 trails, right? You have your main board, and then underneath the different, they can have as many boards as they like, as and when they hear that, when I write light, I don't use Y, I write IGH, okay? Tariq is trying to get back into the group. Sure, sorry about that. Not sure why, Tariq. Maybe there's a broadband issue. All right, guys, just let me know if you got broadband issues. Not a problem, guys. Okay. All right, guys, now it's 11 o'clock. As you can see, I can talk a lot about phonics. I'm going to give everybody a break for 5 minutes. Has that been okay? We're going to go through some resources and bits and pieces. Has that been, have you got any ideas? Have you got ideas? Oh, Paula, you still don't understand it. Don't worry, Paula. I'm going to go through some more examples. Okay, it's a really powerful way of teaching entry-level students with entry-level skills profiles. It's a really good way of trying to really get this across to students. Yeah, I totally respect the fact, guys, if it's, I did ask at the beginning whether it's new to you. It's not, you know, you've not been exposed to it. So when something's new, it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're going to do further work on this. It may even spill over to the afternoon session. It depends on how we go with this, but yeah, it's a very, very good one for us to do. All right, guys, give yourself 5 minutes. I'll be back and enjoy your comfort break, guys. Okay. Okay, everybody, welcome back. Let me just check if anyone's waiting. No, I think we're all here. Fantastic. Any comments about what we've covered so far before I continue with the content? Any comments at all? Anything that's kind of, you know, hit you between the eyes? You think, oh, wow, I never thought about this. Okay, not at the moment, that's fine. Okay, right guys, how many of you are familiar with this document, which came out more or less about 6 months after the DFE produced their subject content? Anybody come across the post-16 phonics approaches, a toolkit? Anybody familiar with this? Okay, all right, okay. This is a real, this is not bedtime reading, guys, first of all. There's 137 pages to this. And basically, what happened was, if I just explain the history of this document, during the consultation period, there was, you know, a recognition that more phonics needs to come into post-16 teaching of English at functional skills, within functional skills, okay? And so soon as the content was produced, then a working party was set up through the Education Training Foundation, and it involved colleges, it involved consultants, different consultancy firms, etc., involved in running training courses. Some of them I'm familiar with myself, and I also work with them as well. And essentially what they did is they produced a really good detailed toolkit on how you can explore using phonics-based approaches. You'll also, it goes through all the key terms, essential concepts, but also specific techniques. I mean, I've gone through some basic techniques already, but I will go through some more. But I would like to draw your attention, guys, to this section here, which is Chapter 3, Phonics and Post-16 Literacy Classroom, pages 24 to 31, okay? And there are some excellent case studies which have been written by, you know, by our fellow post-16 colleagues who have been given a brief to then start to make the teaching of phonics more explicit on, you know, within their entry-level courses, functional skills courses. Okay, so mobilizing phonics knowledge within a text, sentence, and word framework at entry 3. That's number 1. Or phonics takes the lead in a mixed entry 1-2 group with diverse needs, or differentiating support by learner needs in a mixed entry 1, entry 2 group, or using authentic materials as a basis for reading and writing instruction with a mixed entry 2, entry 3 group. So they basically give you a bit of a run through lessons. You'll see like lessons in progress. Like the whole commentary is like you are experiencing someone's lesson, really. It's really good, and it'll give you some additional ideas. But this is not a cover to cover reading, guys. There's a lot in there. It goes through basic code plus, one-to-many, and also assessing. I mean, do any of you, is there, I mean, I know we've got your electronic systems. I think you said you use Skills Forward, or you use BKSB for your initial diagnostic assessment. What some colleagues are doing as well is they're also doing some of the activities in the toolkit. They're using them as part of expanding the diagnostic assessments, so they get some idea of the phonics, the actual phonics knowledge of their learners. You know, do learners understand there are more than 26 sounds? Do they understand about different combinations that you have, like the ones that we explained? So these are kind of things that can actually be ascertained during a diagnostic stage, if that's going to be appropriate as well. Because it's important, because at the end of the day, when they're doing entry-level accreditation, they're going to have to do spelling tests. And the more phonics knowledge they have, the better for the correct spelling, the better for the accuracy of the words. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm just going to stop this particular share and just go through some of my slides now. So just bear with me while I find the information. Ooh. Right, so. Oh. Sorry guys, I'm just can't quite find my. Oh dear, I've hit on a little problem. Ah, hang on. Right, I don't want that. Ah, right. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I think I lost you there for a second. Right, just a second, guys. I've temporarily lost my slides. I don't know what's happened to them. Okay, just